Welcome to Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party's ALLCAPS podcast number 6. You might notice a bit of a difference in my appearance today. Well, I do live in a small community and was involved in a community fundraising event where my beard wasn't needed. I did like my beard, so it will probably come back again. But today's podcast, I'm going to talk about decriminalisation and the push for it, and also Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party's idea of a boutique market within a regulated design. Okay, first off, decriminalisation. We believe decriminalisation is the wrong path to go down. It doesn't work, and it's scary to hear the media and also a lot of talking heads on the media using the word decriminalisation. It's sort of like it's setting the scene up for people to think that's the way to go. It's a step forward. Regulation and legalisation of cannabis and decriminalisation of cannabis are totally different things. And I don't see how anybody can see that decriminalisation is a step towards legalisation. Decriminalisation has been used in the past by other countries. As far as I can tell, decriminalisation makes policing lazy. I mean, under decriminalisation model, police tend to target specific people within the community because they can guarantee that they will get a positive outcome. South Australia tried decriminalisation. They thought they wanted to get cannabis out of the court system, so they started using a model where they handed out a ticket. I think it was a $150 fine ticket, and I think within the first 12 months there was nearly 20,000 tickets handed out. So what they saw was a drop of cannabis cases in the court system, but they saw an increase in fine defaulting because the people that were getting targeted were students and unemployed people who don't have any money to pay fines and don't tend to pay fines anyway. Another model that a lot of people talk about is Portugal's model, and they say how successful it is. I don't think it's worth us really looking into it that much because the path Portugal has gone down is to decriminalise all drugs. New Zealand's not looking at decriminalising all drugs. So the issue we're looking at the moment is just cannabis. In Portugal, I don't know if people are actually aware of the actual model that Portugal's using, so I'll just let you know here. In Portugal, individuals found in possession of small quantities of drugs are issued summonses. The drugs are confiscated and the suspect is interviewed by a commission of dissuasion of drug addiction. This commission is made up of 3 people: social worker, a psychiatrist and an attorney. Okay, the sanctions that this commission has on people who have used or have small quantities of drugs is they can be fined a fine ranging between I think about $50 to $300. They base their figures on their minimum wage and translate into the hours of work lost. They can suspend the right to practice if the user has a licensed profession, i.e. medical doctor or taxi driver, and they may endanger other persons or somebody else's possessions. They can ban people visiting certain places, specifically clubbing venues, so you can't go out and dance. They can ban you for associating with specific other people, and they can have foreign travel bans put on you. The requirement to report periodically to the committee, and well, this wouldn't affect here in New Zealand, but they can have the withdrawal of the right to carry a gun. Confiscation of personal possessions, and that's about it. Basically, if the person is addicted to drugs, they may be admitted to a drug rehabilitation facility or be given community service. I mean, this is not the way New Zealand wants to go. Well, I don't think they do. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, it sounds good when we go, Portugal's decriminalised all drugs and it's just a raging success. It's still a success in the fact that it stopped being treated as a criminal issue and is now treated as a health issue, which all drugs should be treated as health issues. But people are still being punished, and people are still being sidelined within the society. ALCP strongly supports legalization of cannabis under a regulation model. We don't support a free-for-all. We believe that cannabis has impairment, so it needs to be regulated. It needs to keep people who need to be kept safe. Simple as that. What we, the party, would like to see in any regulation model put forward is a clause for a boutique market. How we see the boutique market system working is that if you're an individual, you could purchase a license to cultivate cannabis. One would hope that the license fee was not large. There's no reason for it to be large. I couldn't see it be more than $30, $40 for a license. And that license would allow an individual to cultivate cannabis to sell to a licensed outlet. If under a regulation model, if you're just a normal person and you just want to grow some cannabis just for yourself to smoke and smoke with your friends, there's no license needed. It's just an accepted thing. You can do that. But if you want to sell your product, you wouldn't be able to sell it to anybody who comes and knocks on your door. You could only sell it to a licensed outlet. Some of the benefits of this would be to be keeping non-mainstream cannabis strains, the rarer varieties, still alive. Under a regulation model, it will be legal to be able to import seeds. So any strain of cannabis will be available, but as we know, during any sort of industry that sort of is mainstream, they'll pick just a couple of specific good sellers and they won't look at keeping anything else going. So that's how the boutique market would benefit cannabis in New Zealand. It would be keeping non-popular strains going too. And I don't know about you, but I've met a lot of growers and they all have one thing in common. They all have a passion for cannabis. And I know that a lot have a fear of a loss of income, a lifestyle, if cannabis is legalized. But under this boutique market, those individuals can continue doing what they're doing. If they're producing a good product, if they're doing it the right way, then their product's going to have a market. So they can keep their lifestyle and keep their income that way, but just do it legally. Pay the tax, guy. That's all we're asking you to do. Is pay the tax. Don't be a criminal. Because tax comes back to us, the people. Well, it should do anyway. If politics work properly, a lot of that money should be coming back to us. And in ways it does. So I have no qualms about GST and tax. I don't think that cannabis will be able to be taxed as heavily as tobacco, because the excuse for the heavy taxing of tobacco is the harm that tobacco does. And we know that, nearly 4,000 people die, New Zealanders a year die from tobacco-related illness. And no one dies from cannabis, so I can't see a tax being that high. What else could we... My biggest support of a boutique market is the fact that when I go campaigning around the South Island and I go to small communities and I see that a lot of small communities in New Zealand do it hard. The economy's really strapped back. Businesses never do really well. Sometimes when you go to areas where there's a strong cannabis growing area, you'll find businesses do well because cannabis growers pay their bills because they have money. But the thing with a boutique market is if somebody's growing cannabis in a region and that cannabis has been sold to that region, then the money stays within the community. And I think rural centres need to have a good, robust community. economy, and cannabis could help a lot of those small towns. Growers can grow, they got a license, so it means that they could sell to an outlet within their town. If they have really popular strains and there's demand for their quality of cannabis, maybe they can sell it to other outlets in other parts of the country as well. But it keeps the money in the community and it keeps that money flowing, and that's what it's about. ALCP is not just wanting to get cannabis legalized so we can just be stoned. We see the benefits that the plant has to offer, not only as a recreational social drug, but for medicinal and for industrial. And we just see the country booming and benefiting by making this move. So what I'm asking people is, when you hear people talk about decriminalisation, correct them. So no, sorry, decriminalisation is not the way we want to go. Decriminalisation is a dead-end street. All it does is just takes the load off the judicial system. And they'd love that. But they're the only ones who benefit from that. People get sent to addiction clinics to get off cannabis, even though cannabis is not an addictive substance. I will admit that it is habitual, but it's not addictive. And you have to be clear on that point. People who go to these centres to get cannabis treatment is normally because they're a student and they're at a school and they have to look like they're changing their ways, and also normally young white men who get caught with cannabis tend to get put into these treatment centres before court to show the magistrate that they've learned their lesson, they're moving on, they're changing the direction of their lives to lighten their lesson. But yeah, most people don't really need addiction treatment for cannabis. Like I said, it's more habitual than addictive. So please spread the word. Let people know that a referendum's coming up. Let people know that regulating and removing cannabis from the Misuse of Drugs Act is the only way forward. It's positive, everybody wins from that. And not to get tricked into accepting decriminalisation as a step forward, because it's not a step forward. That's what I've got to say today. I've got a few things that I have to do. And I just like people to know that Aotearoa Legalisation Party is not what it's called. It's called Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party. And we're here to be your voice. But we do need your support. All political parties beg for money to get by. They don't have a lot of money. And we as well don't. We're a very small party, but we are a strong party because we are not going to give up until this law is changed. And that you can trust. So have a lovely day, and I will attempt to put another podcast up next week. But just remember, two things: decriminalisation, wrong way to go, and that any regulation model that puts forward needs to have a boutique market clause in it. We don't want to see that you can only buy cannabis from some huge multinational tobacco company who's jumped into the market, or an alcohol company who's jumped into the market because they're trying to replace the loss of their own profits of their product. So push for boutique market, talk about boutique market. If you meet a person who's a bush grower who's anti-legalization, explain how that they would benefit with a boutique market, how they could walk through the street with their head high and know what people are thinking in the back of my mind. Oh yeah, that's that guy who grows pot up the hill. Yeah, that's him. Suddenly you'll become a respectable horticulturalist in your community, and one that's making money. You have passion, you love the plant, share that, pay the tax, be legal. Okay, thank you very much. You guys have a lovely day, and I will see you next week.